It was a morning like any other. The sound of the coffee machine humming in the background, the faint smell of fresh bread baking in the oven, and the soft rustling of papers as Gregory moved around the kitchen. I had just woken up, the light from the window casting a warm glow on the countertops. Everything felt familiar, comfortable, but something was off. "Coffee's ready," Gregory called out to me from the kitchen, his voice smooth and relaxed. I smiled, stretching my arms above my head, still waking up. Gregory had always been the one to make coffee in the morning, a little ritual of ours since the early days of our marriage. It was one of the few moments I truly appreciated, a quiet start to the day that was ours before the chaos of work, school, and life took over. I had grown accustomed to the smell of his coffee brewing in the mornings, the warmth of the mug in my hands. It had always felt like a simple act of love. I walked into the kitchen and saw him standing there, the coffee mug in his hands. He smiled at me, his usual grin, but this time there was something I couldn't quite place in his eyes, something distant, something cold. "Thank you," I said, taking the mug from him. The coffee had always smelled rich, dark, with a hint of sweetness from the vanilla syrup he added just right. But today it was different. The smell wasn't the same. It had a strange, almost bitter undertone. I didn't say anything at first, chalking it up to my groggy state. Maybe it was just me. I took a sip. The taste was off, sharp, unpleasant, almost metallic. I paused, frowning, trying to place what it was. "Gregory, this coffee." "It's different," I said, putting the mug down gently on the counter. He glanced at me, his eyes momentarily flicking to the mug before meeting my gaze. "Oh, I might have used a new blend. Thought you'd like it," he said, his voice light, like it was no big deal. I didn't respond right away. Something about the way he said it didn't sit right with me. Gregory had always been careful with the coffee. It was his thing, and I trusted him when he said he was making it just the way I liked it. But this was different. "I'll just try another one," I said, forcing a smile. It didn't feel like it would be an issue. A little off coffee wasn't enough to make me think something was wrong, but the knot in my stomach was growing tighter. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more here, something beyond just the coffee. As I turned toward the counter, my sister-in-law Mary walked in, her usual energy filling the space. She greeted me with a warm smile, the kind of smile I had come to expect from her over the years. She'd always been close to me, especially since I married Gregory. She was like a second sister to me, someone I could confide in, someone who had been there for me through the ups and downs. I had no reason to think she wasn't trustworthy. "Morning, you two," Mary said, sliding into the seat at the kitchen island. She had a slight yawn in her voice, still waking up herself. Gregory and I exchanged brief glances. He seemed a bit tense, but he covered it up quickly with another smile. "Morning, Mary. I was just making Bianca some coffee." Mary raised an eyebrow, a playful smirk tugging at her lips. "And how's the coffee, Bianca? Something smells off." I laughed, relieved to have someone else notice the strange scent. "I was just thinking the same thing. Gregory said it's a new blend, but I don't know. It doesn't taste like the usual." Gregory's smile faltered for a split second, his gaze darting toward Mary. I caught it, a fleeting moment of discomfort that immediately caught my attention. Why was he reacting that way? Mary, always the curious one, leaned over the counter. "Can I try it?" she asked, picking up my mug and taking a sip. I watched her face closely. Her expression changed almost immediately. Her eyes widened for a brief second before she masked it with a forced smile. "Wow, that's strong. Definitely different." I watched her carefully. There was something in her tone, something about the way she looked at me. It wasn't exactly judgmental, but there was an edge to it that didn't sit right with me. "What do you mean by different?" I asked, a knot forming in my chest. Mary shrugged, setting the mug back down on the counter. "I don't know. Just not the same. Maybe it's just the blend. I wouldn't worry too much about it." But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, and the unsettling thought gnawed at me. Gregory's behavior was off, the coffee was off, and Mary's reaction, though subtle, had been enough to make me start questioning things I had always taken for granted. "Maybe I'll grab another cup," I said, trying to sound casual, though my heart wasn't in it. "I'll go make my usual." As I moved to get another mug, I noticed Gregory's eyes following me. His gaze wasn't the loving, familiar look I was used to. It was something else, distant, almost calculating. A shiver ran down my spine, and for the first time in years, I felt a wave of doubt sweep over me. Why had he made the coffee this way? What was going on? I needed to find out. But not just about the coffee, about everything. The day dragged on with a heavy weight hanging over me. I couldn't focus on anything. The strange coffee, Gregory's odd behavior, Mary's subtle yet telling reaction, it all combined into a knot in my stomach that refused to loosen. My mind raced with possibilities, each one worse than the last. Could it be that Gregory had been hiding something? Was there more to this than just the coffee? I had no proof, no clear answers, just that gnawing feeling that I couldn't shake, and so I decided to keep my distance. I didn't want to confront Gregory just yet. I needed more information. If something was going on, if he was betraying me in some way, I needed to understand exactly what was happening before I acted. Later that afternoon, I found myself alone in the kitchen again, cleaning up the breakfast dishes. Gregory had gone out to run errands and Amelia was at school. The house was quiet, a rare moment of solitude. I tried to calm myself, but the unsettling thoughts kept creeping back in. The strange coffee, the way Gregory had smiled at me with something so hollow behind it. The brief, almost imperceptible tension between him and Mary, it wasn't just in my head. I picked up my phone and texted Mary. "Hey, can you talk for a minute? I need your advice on something." Seconds passed before she replied, her message coming through fast, almost too fast. Of course. What's going on? I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the keys. It was risky, I knew, but I needed to talk to someone. Mary had always been supportive. And there was a chance, a small one, that she knew something I didn't. "I don't know, Mary. Something feels off between Gregory and me. Have you noticed anything strange lately?" The response came quickly again. "What do you mean, what's going on?" I paused, unsure whether I should go further with this. But my gut told me I had to know. So I typed out the truth as much as I could piece together. "It's the coffee. Something about it was off this morning. And then when I mentioned it, I swear I saw you hesitate, like you knew something." It took a few minutes before she responded, and when she did, I nearly dropped my phone. "Bianca, I think you need to talk to Gregory. I don't know what's going on, but I'm not involved in anything. Be careful." That was all. I stared at the screen for a long time, trying to make sense of her words. What did she mean, I'm not involved in anything? What could that mean? I felt my heartbeat quicken, the unease I had been trying to bury rising up again. There was no way she could be so cryptic unless something was happening. Something big. I couldn't just sit around and wait for the pieces to fall into place. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. That evening I made a decision. I would confront Gregory not in anger but with precision. I needed to know what he was hiding, what he had been up to. The strange coffee was just the beginning. It was a sign that something deeper was festering under the surface of our marriage. But I couldn't go in blind. I had to have evidence, something concrete to bring to the table. I went to Gregory's office that night, the one room in the house he always kept locked when he wasn't around. I'd never questioned it before. He was a private person when it came to work. But now every little thing seemed suspicious. I had no idea what I might find, but I needed to know. The door creaked open as I gently turned the handle. Inside, it was just as it had always been, his desk papers scattered about, a few bookshelves full of his work materials. But something about the room seemed different now. I wasn't just a wife in here. I was a detective trying to piece together the fragments of a life that was falling apart. I scanned the desk, not sure where to start, but then I spotted it. A small envelope tucked beneath a stack of papers. I reached for it, my fingers trembling as I pulled it out. Inside there was a letter. No address, no name on the outside, just the scrawled handwriting that immediately made my heart stop. It was a receipt for a hotel reservation. I read it again slowly, as if the words might change. A reservation for a hotel not far from our home. A single name, no other details. But the date was recent. I felt my chest tighten, my breath caught in my throat. Was this it? Was this the evidence I'd been looking for? A clue that Gregory was involved with someone else. I could hear the front door open downstairs, followed by Gregory's voice, cheerful as always. But something inside me snapped into focus. This wasn't about suspicion anymore. This was about confrontation. I tucked the letter into my pocket, making my way down the stairs just as he entered the living room. He gave me a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Hey, he said, his tone off, almost too casual. How was your day? I didn't respond right away. I just stared at him, holding his gaze. The knot in my stomach twisted. He had no idea I knew. Gregory, I said, my voice steady, I found something. His expression faltered just for a second. I saw the faintest flicker of guilt before he masked it with a smile. What do you mean? I pulled the envelope from my pocket, letting the receipt dangle from my fingers like the evidence it was. His face went pale as he saw it, and I watched him swallow hard. The silence between us was suffocating. Why don't you explain this? I asked, my voice low but filled with an edge of fury. What's going on, Gregory? His response came, but it was nothing like I expected. It was defensive. It was desperate. I can explain. It's not what you think. But I wasn't interested in his excuses. I'm done with explanations, I said, cutting him off. I want the truth, and I want it now. Gregory's eyes shifted nervously, his gaze darting from the envelope in my hand to my face. The air between us was thick with tension. He wasn't going to talk his way out of this. The realization that he had been caught sent a tremor through him, but it didn't stop him from trying to salvage the situation. Bianca, please. He began, his voice shaky. It's not what you think. I was going to tell you everything, I swear. Tell me everything. I repeated, my voice colder now, the anger and hurt clear in my tone. Is that what you think I need right now? Your pathetic attempt at an explanation? No. What I need is the truth. He swallowed, his eyes flicking toward the door as if he was contemplating running. But he stayed put, caught between his guilt and the need to defend himself. He paused, his voice faltering. It's just a business trip, Bianca. I was going to tell you, but things got complicated. I didn't know how to bring it up. I could feel my chest tighten, a mix of disbelief and betrayal coursing through me. A business trip. This wasn't just a business trip. This wasn't just about a hotel reservation or a single night away. There was something else, something he hadn't told me. The thought of it made my blood boil. Don't lie to me, Gregory. I said, my voice low and steady, almost dangerously calm. I know what this is, and you're not going to talk your way out of it. I've had enough of your lies. He looked at me, his face growing pale. There was nothing left to hide. He knew he was caught, but I could see him struggling to come up with an excuse. He was cornered, and that was something he wasn't used to. His words stumbled out, but they didn't make sense anymore. The confidence he once had in our marriage, the control he'd held over everything had cracked. I could see it. His armor was gone, and all that remained was a scared, defensive man. I don't care about your excuses, Gregory, I said sharply. What I care about is the fact that you've been lying to me. You've been hiding things from me for months, and I've been stupid enough to ignore the signs. I thought I knew you, but now I realize I don't know anything about you anymore. He shook his head, his eyes wide with panic. Bianca, please, you don't understand. Don't I cut him off? Don't say another word until you tell me the truth. What's going on with you and her? Who is she? His jaw clenched, his face turning red with frustration. For the first time, I saw a flicker of guilt, a crack in his facade. He took a deep breath as if preparing himself for the final blow. I never meant for this to happen, he admitted, his voice soft now. Her name is Lisa. I met her on a business trip last year. Things just escalated. I felt as if the floor had dropped out from beneath me. Lisa. The name sounded so foreign, so cold in my mouth. It didn't make sense. It didn't feel real. But it was. The truth was staring me in the face, and all I could do was breathe through the pain. You've been seeing her for a year, I whispered, my voice trembling with emotion. Behind my back. After everything. He looked down at his feet, unable to meet my eyes. I didn't need him to speak. I already knew the answer. The silence between us was suffocating. I couldn't look at him anymore. I couldn't stomach the man who had broken my heart, who had taken the trust I had given him and shattered it with his selfish actions. All these years, how many times had I placed my trust in him? How many times had I sacrificed my own dreams, my own desires just to support him? And this is how he repaid me. Why, Gregory? I asked, my voice trembling with anger. Why did you do this? Was I not enough for you? I don't know. He said, his words coming out in a broken stream. I never meant for it to go this far. But I don't want to lose you, Bianca. I never wanted to hurt you. The irony was almost too much to bear. He didn't want to lose me. He was the one who had thrown everything away, who had made the choice to betray me. And now, in his attempt to save face, he was telling me how sorry he was. "I don't care about your apologies," I said, my voice hard, cold. "You've crossed a line. You don't get to do this to me and then ask for forgiveness. It doesn't work that way." He reached out to me, his hand shaking, but I took a step back, putting space between us. I couldn't even stand the thought of him touching me right now, not after what he had done. "I need you to leave," I said, each word punctuated with finality. "I need time. I need to figure this out. But right now I don't want to look at you." Gregory's face was a mixture of shock and desperation. "Bianca, please don't do this. Please don't leave me." "I'm not leaving you, Gregory," I said, my voice steady now. "You left me the moment you chose her. And now I'm choosing me." I turned and walked away, feeling as though the ground was slipping beneath my feet. But I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I needed space. I needed to think. I spent the night alone, my mind racing with the events that had unfolded. The betrayal, the lies, the pain. I had never imagined that the man I had loved for so long could do something like this. But here I was, staring at the wreckage of my marriage. The hardest part wasn't confronting Gregory. It was accepting the reality of what had happened. The man I thought I knew was gone, and in his place was someone I didn't even recognize. I knew that I couldn't let him get away with this. The anger I felt was growing, and it was no longer just about hurting him in the way he had hurt me. It was about taking control. It was about making sure that I wouldn't be a victim anymore. Gregory thought he could get away with this betrayal, but I would show him just how wrong he was. The next few days passed in a haze of confusion and anger. The house felt eerily quiet without Gregory around. I hadn't seen him since that night, and every moment without him seemed to amplify the ache in my chest. I had never felt so alone, not even during the hardest moments of our marriage. His betrayal had peeled back the layers of my life, exposing everything I had ignored. I couldn't just sit here and wallow in self-pity. I needed to make a decision. I needed to act. I spent hours talking to Claire, my lawyer, who had been a calming presence during this storm. She had listened to my rambling, incoherent thoughts and helped me focus. Gregory had made a mistake, yes, but it was my choice how to move forward. And in this moment, the only thing I was certain of was that I wasn't going to let him take everything without consequences. We discussed everything, what I could do next, what legal steps I could take. But more than that, I began to see a clearer path ahead. Gregory wasn't going to get away with betraying me, not just in a legal sense, but emotionally as well. I was done being the victim. I would make sure he knew that. I would make sure he understood the cost of what he had done. Bianca, Claire had said during one of our calls, "You have options. But remember, you don't have to rush into any decisions. You can take your time. This is your fight now, not his. You get to control how it ends." And that was exactly what I needed to hear. I needed to be in control to call the shots. I had spent too many years putting everyone else's needs first, and now it was my turn. A week passed before I heard from Gregory again. This time, the message wasn't a plea for reconciliation, but an email, a detailed list of his so-called solutions to fix everything. He offered to go to marriage counseling, to share the financial documents with me, to work through things. It was an attempt to control the narrative, to pull the rug back under my feet, to make me feel as though this was just a bump in the road. I could almost hear his voice in the email, smooth and practiced, attempting to manipulate the situation to make me think everything could be salvaged with a few words. But I was no longer the woman who would fall for that. I was stronger, now, clearer. His words didn't have power over me anymore. I didn't respond to the email. I didn't need to. Instead, I spent the next few days preparing. I made sure that I had all the legal documents in place. I made sure that I knew exactly what was at stake, and I started to focus on myself again. There was something deeply liberating about realizing that I didn't need him, that I was going to be okay, better than okay. The first step was for me to reclaim my career. I had let it slip away over the years, letting my ambitions fade into the background while I supported Gregory, but no longer. I dusted off my resume, updated my LinkedIn profile, and started reaching out to old colleagues. I had so many skills, so much untapped potential. I had been too busy being a wife and a mother to really focus on my own aspirations, but now it was time. I also started taking small steps in rebuilding my self-worth. I had neglected myself for so long, both physically and emotionally. I took long walks in the evening, spent time at the gym, and even started doing things I used to enjoy: painting, reading, cooking new recipes. It wasn't about distracting myself from the pain, it was about reintroducing joy back into my life piece by piece. But as much as I focused on my growth, there was still one thing I needed to address. The emotional justice I sought couldn't just come from me moving on, it had to come from confronting the betrayal directly. I knew I needed to see Gregory face to face. It wasn't enough to just let him disappear into the ether. He needed to understand that his actions had consequences, and I was the one who would make him face them. But I wasn't going to do it out of anger. No, I would do it on my terms, in my own time, and with a calm that would leave him speechless. That night, as I sat at the kitchen table, the house feeling too quiet for comfort, I made the call. I dialed Gregory's number and waited for him to pick up. The seconds felt like hours, the anticipation thick in the air. When he finally answered, his voice was hesitant, unsure. "Bianca, Gregory." I said, my voice steady, the anger now simmering beneath the surface, but controlled. "I think it's time we talk in person. I want to meet you tomorrow. I need to see you face to face. We need to discuss the next steps." He was quiet for a moment, no doubt trying to figure out what to say, how to regain the upper hand. "Bianca, I don't think—" "No. You don't get to decide anymore, Gregory," I interrupted, my voice firm. "I'm the one who decides now. I'll see you tomorrow." I hung up before he could respond, a rush of adrenaline coursing through my veins. I wasn't just reclaiming control of the situation, I was reclaiming control of my life. It wasn't his anymore, not in the way it used to be. The next day, I drove to the cafe we had once frequented on weekends, a neutral spot where I knew we wouldn't be interrupted. It felt surreal to be here, preparing for a conversation that would change everything. But I was ready. When Gregory walked in, he looked almost disheveled, his once confident demeanor gone. The man who had stood in front of me all those years ago was now replaced by someone I barely recognized. He didn't sit down immediately. Instead, he lingered by the table, looking uncomfortable. I could tell he wasn't sure how to approach me, what to say, or even if he should try to apologize. But that was the point. He no longer had control over how this played out. "Bianca, I don't know what to say," he stammered, running a hand through his hair. "Then don't say anything," I replied coolly, my gaze steady. "You've already said enough." His face fell, and I saw the realization hit him. This was it, the end of the road. No more lies, no more manipulation. I was done. Gregory stood there for a moment, as if trying to find the right words, but none came. His eyes were wide, uncertain, almost as if he were looking at a stranger. I knew this was the first time he was seeing me for who I truly was, a woman no longer broken, no longer reliant on him to feel validated. The confidence I had found in myself over the past few weeks was radiating outward, and it made him uncomfortable. He wasn't used to me being so strong, so sure of myself. It was unnerving to him. I kept my gaze fixed on him, unwavering. He had betrayed me, manipulated me, and now he was going to face the consequences of his actions. No apologies were going to fix this. No explanations would undo the damage he had caused. "Bianca," he finally said, his voice quieter now, almost pleading. "I never wanted to hurt you. I thought I was doing the right thing." "The right thing," I repeated, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "Gregory, you didn't just hurt me. You crushed everything we built. You took the trust I had in you and destroyed it. You've been lying to me for months, and now you're asking for my understanding. After everything." His face flushed, and for the first time I saw genuine regret in his eyes. But it was too little, too late. The man I had loved, the man I had trusted with my heart, was no longer standing in front of me. The man before me was a shadow of the person I had given everything to, a man too cowardly to be honest, and too selfish to realize the damage he had caused. "I was weak," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I let it happen, and now I can't take it back." I leaned forward, my hands clasped together on the table, steady and strong. "No, you can't take it back. You can't undo what's been done, and you're not going to get away with it, not with me." He looked at me, the weight of my words sinking in. There was a shift in the air, a realization dawning on him that I wasn't going to just roll over and let him walk away without facing the consequences. For the first time in a long while, I saw a flicker of fear in his eyes. Fear of losing everything. And that's when I knew this was my moment. The moment where everything changed. The moment where I took back control. "I want the divorce finalized," I said calmly. "I don't want anything from you. No more lies, no more games. Just end it, and I'll make sure you don't try to pull any more tricks with the money." His face went pale. He looked like he had just realized what he had lost, what he had already lost. "Bianca," he started again, but I cut him off. "No, it's over, Gregory. I'm done. You're not going to take anything else from me, not my peace, not my dignity. You've already taken enough." He seemed to struggle with the weight of my words, his shoulders slumping slightly, as if the last vestiges of his pride were crumbling. I didn't care. All I cared about was ensuring that I didn't leave this moment with any doubts. "Bianca, He trailed off, looking defeated. I didn't need to hear him beg. I didn't need any more false promises or apologies. The betrayal had run too deep, and I had already seen everything I needed to see. This man was not the one I had married. He had shown me who he was, and I was done trying to fix him. "You don't have to say anything else," I said firmly. "Just sign the papers. I want this behind me." For a moment, we both just stared at each other, the weight of the finality hanging between us. It was strange sitting across from him like this, the man who had once been my everything, now reduced to a stranger. And yet there was something almost freeing about it. It was as if the last chain that had kept me tied to this broken marriage had been severed. Gregory didn't respond right away. His eyes flicked to the ground, then back to me. Finally, he nodded. "I'll sign them. I'll do whatever you need. But Bianca, please. I didn't mean for things to get this far." I didn't respond to his plea. I simply stood up, walking past him without another word. There was nothing left to say. The man I once knew was gone. I was done pleading with him. I had taken back my power, my peace, and now I was moving forward. As I walked out of the cafe, I felt a sense of liberation flood through me, a weight lifting off my shoulders. It wasn't over yet, but I was no longer trapped in the life I had built with him. The next chapter was mine to write, and this time, I was going to make sure it was a story of strength, resilience, and self-discovery. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing for certain: I was done being the victim in my own story. The next few weeks were a blur of legal paperwork, difficult conversations, and small steps toward rebuilding my life. The divorce was finalized quickly, and Gregory signed the papers without putting up a fight. As much as I had expected him to drag his feet, he seemed resigned, almost as if he were relieved to be rid of me. And I was fine with that. In a way, it was the only thing that had made sense anymore. Amelia took the news harder than I expected. She was confused, angry, and hurt, but I refused to let her see me fall apart. I had already spent too much time letting the darkness consume me. I wasn't going to let it take her too. Instead, I focused on being the mother she needed, the role model she deserved. I taught her gently that no matter how hard life got, we had the power to rise from the ashes. As for Gregory, he quickly moved on, as I knew he would. He didn't bother trying to contact me again after the divorce was final. I heard rumors about him and Lisa, but I didn't care anymore. What mattered was that I had moved on. I had taken back my life. But the most unexpected part of all was the quiet peace that settled within me. I was no longer defined by my marriage, by his betrayal. I was defined by my own strength, by my ability to rise from the wreckage and rebuild. I had walked through the fire, and I had come out the other side stronger, fiercer, and ready to face whatever came next. And that was the real victory.